You need comprehensible input. You know this, but where do you find interesting content as an intermediate learner? Well, in this podcast style video, I'm going to try to provide this for you. We're going to talk about emotions, triggers, how to deal with emotions. It's not what you expect. By the end of this video, you are going to acquire some English, new words, and a little bit about yourself and your emotions. Let's do this. Hey everyone, Dale here with Nativlo, your favorite English coach, helping you reach your goals in English like a native using the natural approach. If you are at the stuck intermediate level and you're sick of the old traditional methods, memorization, grammar, and you need something new, then this channel is definitely for you. Here at Nativlo, we provide you with natural comprehensible input regularly and weekly practical tips, tricks, and motivation, helping to keep you consistent with your English goals. So at the end of this video, if this has given you some value, then please make sure to like, subscribe, and also tap the bell notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly videos. Okay, so today's structure, firstly, what we're going to do, and I will be looking at some notes as we're going through this, just to make sure that I don't miss any points. I want to make sure that I talk about everything and I give you all the details that you need to know. So, like I said, firstly, we are going to, share it with you right now. We're just going to share some potentially new words that you may not have known before. These are going to be included in the podcast, okay? So the podcast is coming up, but we have words that I'm going to list somewhere here, probably in front of the screen now or somewhere, maybe as a screenshot. Doesn't really matter. The words are going to be popped up right now so you can have a quick look. And then I want you to you've seen the words, okay, out of context, but then you're going to see those new words in context through this podcast. So those words will definitely be in this podcast right here. And yeah, your job is just to pick out them and just take them in as input. Okay, so make sure you do stay to the end of the podcast so you don't miss any of those new words, potential new words for you. Okay. And the next step is very simple. You're going to just enjoy listening, hopefully, to me, reading, listening, and listen to this podcast, whether it's just audio, it's, watching the video with visual, or just text, whichever, or both. But either way, just absorb, enjoy the content. Like I said, this is awesome. Hopefully should be awesome, comprehensible input for you. And yeah, we're going to chat about emotions. Emotions, what are emotions in general? And yeah, I'll maybe just give some personal stories, anecdotes about how I've dealt with emotions. And we're also going to talk about how to deal with emotions. And it's not going to be what you expect. So make sure you do stick around so you can learn a thing or two about emotions and psychology a little bit as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff we're going to talk about in this podcast. I really hope you do stick to the end. So you stay to the end, basically, because the more the merrier. The more you get in, the more input you get in, the better for you. And this is the natural way of learning. We're not learning grammar rules. We're not learning or memorizing words. We're just soaking in. You are immersing yourself in the language right now. I'm obviously tailoring my English to your level. I'm not speaking at beginner. I'm not speaking at advanced. I'm speaking at around the intermediate level, which is probably where you are right now. And then third thing we're going to do is I'm going to just ask a few questions to you about today's podcast, and you're just going to practice your speaking. Yeah, we're just going to ask you some questions just to make sure that you've understood the podcast, give you a chance to speak, to practice, and that'll be at the end, of course. So you're going to watch this podcast, and then at the end, you're going to get a chance to, just answer my questions. I'm going to ask a few things about psychology, about emotions, based on whatever we talk about in this podcast. I don't know what those questions are yet until I've done the podcast, obviously. But at the end, I will give you a few questions, and your opportunity to just practice your speaking and try to use some new vocabulary from this podcast as well. Okay, let's talk about emotions. As you can see just here, if I just quickly, type in what are emotions, right? First thing you see here is literally emotions are a conscious mental reaction. People misconstrue, unfortunately, they misconstrue or misunderstand what an emotion actually is. So completely misconstrue it. Emotions are not in the brain. Well, we can talk about it, but I believe that they're not in, it's like emotions aren't in the brain. They're not coming from a conscious point of view. You could say subconscious, but it's coming from the body. Yeah, surprise, surprise, the emotions are coming from the body, not from the brain. The brain, see, it goes into a very spiritual, esoteric kind of, esoteric, kind of place. We all believe that the mind and the body are sort of detached in some way. They're sort of separate. And we forget that the mind and body is one. The body is the mind is the body. The whole organism or mechanism is all one, right? It's all connecting, working together in harmony, in unison. And people think, and then you look at this, and of course, this is all about American Psychological Association. So it's very obvious they're going to say, "Oh, it's all psychological," but it's very naive. It's very simplistic to say that. It's very superficial, surface level kind of explanation or definition. But my definition, and I work with my spiritual teacher with meditation, that kind of stuff, and from what I know, and we're going to go into it in just a second, look at a few articles and stuff, but basically, it's not coming from the mind, it's not coming from, the conscious point of view. It's, if you want to call it subconscious or unconscious, that's fine, but it's the body. The body is the emotion is in the body. Remember, emotion is energy in motion, and isn't this thing and the head moving and the shoulders and the body isn't that motion? Isn't that movement? So when you say anger or sadness or funny humor, it's all the body's moving. It's in the body. And if you just look in your own experience now, does it feel like the emotion is in your head, in your psychology, or in your mental conscious state? Or is it coming from the body? So like if you're angry, does it feel like it's being processed here? Or does it feel like it's in the chest somewhere or in the abdomen, some sort of down here or, somewhere? It's like you can just feel it. It's very visceral. It's very, very, very strong and visceral and powerful. So just look in your own experience quickly, like where do you think emotion's coming from? Is it from here or is it from the body? And of course, you're going to find out if you do this and just quickly check, it's coming from the body. So emotions aren't a psychological thing. It's an energetic thing. Okay, so the answer to this is, and you can debate, you can comment in the comment section if you so choose, but emotions are coming from the body, and they are it's energy. It's all energy, just like this whole world is all energetic. So that's what we have here in terms of, some of the definitions are kind of misconstrued, I should say, and not the best, they're not the best. Isn't it interesting how we all misconstrue emotions and everyone believes that it's all in the mind? And if you look in your own experience, you will see that it's coming from an energetic place, right? And then speaking of which, triggers. What are triggers? We're going to talk about this. We're going to touch on this really quickly. What is a trigger? What are triggers? So a trigger is, if you look in your everyday life, there's certain moments where you get pissed off, you get annoyed, you get angry. There's moments where you get upset. Someone says something and you just get really depressed, sad, upset. And what the hell is that? What is a trigger? Why is it happening? What is it? Why is it there? Well, on a superficial surface level, triggers are just basically unprocessed emotions that you haven't dealt with. Okay, this is very personal to you. For example, my trigger, this is quite funny. My trigger, one of my personal triggers is when people That's a trigger. I get extremely emotionally reactive and triggered when someone makes that noise in front of me. If they go, right? Some of you right now are probably getting triggered by me making that noise. And it's horrible, and I freaking hate that. I hate that shit. I hate when people just munch. We call it munching. So to munching, or snoring. And snoring is a huge trigger of mine. So those two, personally, are my triggers. They're my two personal triggers, like big triggers. Just with sounds, like auditory. So there's many different facets of triggers. They could be auditory, visual, emotional, something someone says that triggers an emotion. But whatever it is, wherever it comes from, why do we have them? I can't really explain those two personal auditory triggers. They just annoy the hell out of me. they really frustrate me, really get to me. So that's something I don't think we can change. Maybe we can. Maybe that's an interesting thing to talk about as well. Like, can we change those innate triggers that we kind of had from almost day one? So since we started this life, we seem to, like, for me, I've since I remember, I've always had those two triggers. I can't sleep with people, like in a bed with, when I was a kid, when I was younger, and I would be with my two sisters. My dad snores so badly, and my mother snores really bad as well. So when I was younger, I remember I would just be like, just crying the whole time. I just couldn't stand it. I wanted to die. I wanted to kill someone, or to kill myself. I don't know. I just wanted to be dead. I couldn't stand it. I was suffering immensely. And it seems silly because other people, they don't even notice, like, doesn't bother them. So their triggers are very different to my triggers, and your trigger is different to someone else's trigger, right? So we all have our own unique triggers, but what are triggers and why are they there? Well, of course, there's other triggers. We have the sort of the weird ones where there's just kind of a certain sound or a certain visual thing. But the triggers that I really want to talk about right now, which also leads to your childhood, is just emotional triggers, like triggers that someone says something, they say something, and it just makes you like really angry really quickly, and that's a trigger. So anything that just triggers really quickly, like you get very emotional very quickly, is essentially a trigger. Why do we have it? Well, firstly, I'll just say, actually, that is a trigger. And another few examples would be, you are walking down the street, you open the door for someone goes through, they don't say thank you. That can be a trigger. That can be a trigger. Someone's rude, someone makes you feel less of a person. Oh, another one of mine personally. So I'll just give you another personal one, is when I'm talking and someone talks over me. And look, we all do this. We get excited. Someone's talking and then you're like, oh yeah. Over the top of them, over the top. So you're talking over them. I do this. I'm guilty as charged for this. I do this. But when people do it to me, and I'm a bit of a hypocrite sometimes for this, because I do this myself. And I try my best not to do this, but when someone does it, I get really pissed off and triggered as well. So that's another good example. If someone talks over you, if someone makes you feel less of a man. So a lot of you dudes out there, maybe you have this feeling, like if another man makes you feel really belittled, like made to feel worse or less than what you actually are, which is awesome, by the way. But if you feel less than that, it can be extreme for a man. As a man, and I'm sure a lot of you guys relate to this or resonate with this. Resonate, feel the same. Do you know what I mean? It's like you get that kind of that immediate anger and kind of defensiveness. If some other guy makes you feel stupid, that's another one. Stupid, upset, because of what they've said. They say something, like they make you feel stupid. They make you feel less of a man or a woman. That's a few really good triggers there. So some of my personal triggers are, yeah, when someone makes me feel stupid, when someone talks over me, when someone just does a lot of things like that, when makes me feel like I'm not worthy. And this leads perfectly to the next point, which is childhood traumas. Why do we have triggers? Why are they there? And what can you do to actually deal with those intense emotions now? Okay, I'm going to kind of combine all these together. I'm not going to make this like structured too much where we talk about one point to the next. I'm just going to kind of blend it all together. I keep this podcast relatively short, 15, 20 minutes. But what can you do to actually help? Firstly, where did it come from? So why do we have these triggers? Well, triggers are coming from a childhood trauma in general, okay? Look, we can talk about past lives. We can talk about many different reasons why we have these emotions. It gets very esoteric, very complex, very, very convoluted. Yeah, after a while, it gets very convoluted and confusing and complicated. If you want to go on, we can talk in further discussions about this, further podcasts. But essentially, childhood traumas in general are a huge component for having certain triggers, okay? And I'm talking, guys, about the ones where you feel emotionally, or there's an identity there that gets upset about it. So you feel stupid, someone's rude. They're those kind of triggers I'm talking about, obviously. So what we're going to do is just really quickly, I'm trying to do this live, so I'm not going to edit this out, hopefully, but I'm just going to go on to a few articles here. I'm just going to try to screen record as I'm talking, so forgive me if there's a little bit of cuts and edits here, but I'm trying to do this as live as possible. As you can see here, I'm just going to go through and just give you a little bit of what GP thinks is happening here. And he is one of my personal spiritual teachers, not religious teachers. I'm not religious, but this is spiritual, meaning who are you? Why are we here? What's going on? It's very self-inquiry or self-reflection or self-reflecting. And he's my sort of emotional coach, teacher, you could call it, spiritual teacher. It's more about the emotions and kind of think of Buddhism, think of relieving suffering, think of all that kind of stuff, and just trying to be happier as a person. He's my teacher for that, and he's an incredible guy. Make sure you check him out if you're interested. GP Walsh. But as you can see here, I'm just going to read through just a few points here. Depression. Let's just start with depression. Of course, we've got anger. We've got all these other emotions. But depression is a huge one that people get sad, people get upset. This isn't an article about reacting or reactions or triggers, but it's about emotions. So we're just going to sort of transition into this. And then I'm going to tell you kind of what you can do to actually deal with those emotions. So make sure you do stick around, definitely. So, depression. Every man has his secret sorrows, which he knows not. The world knows not. And oftentimes we call a man cold when he is only sad. Wow. Consider the mighty gentle. I'm just going to read a little bit now, so you guys can just listen and enjoy, and just take what you will from this. Okay. Consider the mighty and gentle gentle whale. It roams endlessly across thousands of miles, the entire world of water in its home and playground. It is at home in the vast spaces of the deep, so in the sea. Now, take that same noble animal and put it in a swimming pool. Will it be happy? Will it feel alive? Will it feel fulfilled? Of course not, no. Do you think us humans are any different? Any animal removed from its natural environment and stuck in a cage to perform tricks and stuff like that, and just to perform, will have a sense of alienation, to feel alienated, separate from its true self, or being out of place or disconnected. Its natural impulses squashed, its energy will contract to the point of simply no longer caring. So in short, even the great whale, having its nature suppressed, will find its spirit to be depressed. And what is the natural environment of a human being? Love, intimacy, compassion, family, self-expression, creativity, curiosity, expansion, evolution, growth, improving oneself. And what the oceans to the well is the universe to the human. But does that list look like the world we have created for ourselves? No, we're not in love. We're not connected. We're completely disconnected from ourselves. Etc. So when the natural instincts, impulses, loves, passions, and curiosities of the human being are suppressed, put down, or not given enough opportunity to develop and grow, they will wither, they will dissolve, they will become nothing. Depression is simply a state the human energy system gets into when it can find no mode of expression. Because of early traumas, cultural limitations, and the pressure to conform, the natural instincts constantly thwarted, simply withdraw, okay? Now I'm just going to quickly switch over to, that's just a little bit about depression. Won't have time to go through grief here. But what can you do? We're just going to transition now just to finish up this podcast. Again, I want to keep this one quite short. Let me know in the comment section if you want me to talk more about this, but I'm trying to cram this into a shorter podcast for you guys, maybe 20 minutes roughly. But what can you do to actually heal yourself, to deal with emotions? Well, guess what? You must love yourself. So as cliche as it is, you have to love yourself first, okay? When you were a baby, a child, you were, told you can't do this, you can't do that. And I think that is somewhere where the tribe was, which is here. Too often in our unbridled exuberance, the exuberance of youth. So basically when you're a child, when you see children, they're extremely exuberant, excited and high energy. This is usually too intense and uncomfortable for the tribe, meaning your family, your parents, your whatever, caregivers. So they tell you to be quiet, just shush, don't be you. They try to suppress you, yeah? They suppress you. And inevitably, we blame not the environment or our family, which we had to survive, and survival is absolutely imperative. It's the number one most important thing. So your parents had to do that, but we assume it was just us. We're flawed, we're bad. So what happens is the energy suppresses. It suppresses all that exuberance, all that high energy that you have, and it goes into hiding. And it says you can't love anyone until you love yourself. Okay. In actual fact, the need is to let ourselves love in every and any way we can. So, how do we do it? Very simple. Well, firstly, you have suppressed your emotions as a child because of your environment, because you had to survive, right? But now you're older, those emotions try to bubble up so it can express itself. That's all it's trying to do, is trying to get, it's trapped energy that can't be killed rather, sorry. It can't die. So what does it do? It stays stuck in parts of the body. So when we said about emotions being in the mind, it's not, it's in the body. That's why I want you to just go and sit with yourself, feel where the emotions are. They will not be up here. They will be somewhere in the body, because they are literally trapped energy in the body. So what do you need to do? Well, firstly, that's what's happened. The emotion is suppressed because of childhood traumas, and that is a trauma. When you can't be yourself, you have to shut down the emotion, and it can't be destroyed, so it's just waiting to be allowed to be released again. So what you have to do, sit with, accept and feel your emotion, and realize that you are love. Come to see the simple reality: you are love. It's your nature. See this, and self-love will be answered forever. So all you need to do, guys, is just feel your emotion and love yourself. Imagine a kid crying. You wouldn't be like, la, 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 la. You would be comforting, hugging. Do the same. Of course you would. Do the same with your own emotions too. And if you do that, they will naturally heal themselves to the point where those triggers are no more. Question: remember to try to use as many of the new words that we've talked about today in your answers here, okay? You can write this down, you can write and speak, you can just speak out loud, you can comment down below in the comment section. Either way, answer these 4 questions, okay? And just get used to, outputting, so speaking and writing. You trying to use as many of the new vocab as you can. So first question: what is emotions to you? Do you think it's energy, or do you think it's in the mind? Or do you think the mind's causing it? So what do you think about that? Question 2, tell me some of your triggers and how do they make you feel? Tell me some of your triggers. How do they make you feel? What are your triggers? Question 3, how do you deal with your emotions? So up to this point of this video, I've kind of given you some new ideas of how to deal with emotions in this podcast, in this video. But how have you, in the past, up to this point, how have you been dealing with your emotions? Do you react? And there's no judgment here. If it's too personal, you don't have to answer. It's no problem. But if you're okay and happy to answer, how do you deal with your emotions? Do you react? Do you suppress it? Do you keep it inside? Do you feel your emotions? Do you do everything that I've said in this video? How do you deal with your emotions? I know they can be very destructive sometimes, or disruptive, we should say, especially when you're in a meeting or something, or you're with friends. It can be really, really difficult. Yeah, I completely understand that. But let me know how you currently deal with your emotions. So yeah, and then question 4 is, do you think emotions are negative, and why? Are they positive? Are they negative to you personally, and why? So if they are negative to you, why? All right, guys, answer these questions. Have fun with it. You don't have to send it in the comment section or anything like that. In fact, don't do that. It's going to be too much text and stuff. So don't do that. But I do want you to just, for yourself, get a pen and paper, write down, speak out loud, write, and then read and speak out loud, whichever you prefer. Just get the words out. Just get creative. Start creating some sentences with answers to these questions here, okay? Hopefully it starts to get you thinking as well about your emotions and your life and yourself as well. So hopefully this hasn't just been about English, getting you more English input, comprehensible input, but it's also giving you some insights and got you thinking bigger just by watching this video. Acquisition, comprehensible input is really cool, right? You just listen, read, watch me, let the language into your brain. Super simple, right? So if you want to find out other ways that you can acquire, then